Is right. That's it. We're talking about this, the podcast of the century. I'm your host, Brandon Brice, the people's champ. Real news, real people, and straight to the point. And folks, this is the first show, and guess what? I want to talk about restaurants. There's a war between the governor and where you like to eat. As crazy as that sounds, 30% of restaurants in the state of Michigan are down, and they're talking about possibly coming back. Oh, I find it so interesting that they're finally talking about coming back right after the inauguration. Oh, well, we already knew that. But folks, we're talking about restaurants are really struggling. I mean, literally, we've got restaurants that in some cases are going out of business. They're not coming back. Zip, zilch, they're gone. But today is a different story because I've got a good friend who, if you ever go to Royal Oak, Michigan, he's got the best crepes in the country. It's even called Le Crepe. And folks, his name is Dennis Williams. He's agreed to come on The Brice is Right tonight to talk about the issues he has with the governor. Yes, I say that because those bans are affecting people. They're changing people's lives. And today we're going to hear how they're changing folks' lives. I want to bring on my first guest tonight, Dennis Williams, owner and sole proprietor of the great Restaurante, El Restaurante, Le Crepe. Dennis, welcome to The Brice is Right.
Thank you, Brother Brice. Nice to have you.
So, Dennis, let's go right into it. You have worked your life building a restaurant, an establishment, a legacy, to find out with COVID-19 that you could possibly be shut down. The state is already saying that, we want to focus on COVID numbers. We want people to be safe. We want all this other crap. Folks, restaurants are struggling. Small business owners like my friend right here, they're struggling. And I want to tell his side of the story. Dennis, let me ask you this. I mean, just tell me from the minute we went into lockdown from now, how has that impacted your business, your establishment, your baby?
Sales are down 90%. The fear rate is up 590%. And for those of us who are barely making it, we're barely making it. For those who all didn't make it, it's a shame. And my heart and prayer goes out to those who have lost their lives to COVID and their families who have lost their lives
Absolutely.
to COVID.
Absolutely.
But there's also people losing their lives and their livelihood in the name of COVID, which is in itself is a tragedy. And
here's the thing that gets me. The thing that just, trickles my toes is when I hear people say, there are people that passed away, that died from COVID, and it's where we need to focus on that. But let me ask you this. To a person, and that's true, there were people who died. I lost friends, unfortunately. But isn't a person who puts their heart and soul into a business and literally watching it fade away, isn't that almost equated to the same kind of slow death?
Exactly it is. And I can care about the lives that are lost. I can care about the pandemic. I can care about the severity of it. But does that mean that I have to starve in the meantime where big box corporate stores are open and they can care and they can understand the tragedy and the travesty of it all, but they're still allowed to feed their families?
Let me ask you this. Right now, you said on your block, as of last year, how many businesses were on your block and how many businesses are there now?
As far as restaurants are concerned, there were 7 to 8 restaurants in the vicinity of a square mile that I'm talking about, and I think it's only 3 of us left. And these are big restaurants. I mean, Adiamo gone, Hopcat gone, small businesses gone. And as you and I talked about it, I understand that, hey, the restaurants and bars can be, and I'm holding up quotation marks, I don't know if I'm being seen, a super spreader.
The world is watching, but that's okay. That's okay. We talk about that on The Brice is Right. That's okay. But go ahead.
I understand it's a super spreader, but that doesn't mean that my business should have to go out of business because of that. And we need to find some real life solutions that's for everyone. And
let me ask you this. So right now, we've got millions right now of businesses have been impacted. Thousands of businesses across the state aren't coming back. Some of your friends who are in business, what are they saying? I mean, literally, we've seen divorce rates go up. We've seen domestic abuse rates go up because people can't afford to feed their families because Big Gretch, once again, wants to lock us down. Now, some are saying that possibly, hopefully, February 1st, we will see a sudden turn where now businesses will slightly begin to open up. Is there hope down the road for you? What do you see coming?
Man, Brother Brice. Yes, my restaurant can open up February 1st, but it can only open up to 20 to 25% capacity. Mm-hmm. But I still owe 100% of my rent. I still owe my vendors 100%. And I guess I should be focusing on the cake and not the crumbs, but 25% for my restaurant that hosts 40 people is 7 to 10 people. There are more people in the grocery store sushi department. There are more people at the grocery store bakery working there that are in my restaurant. And once again, I just hate that I have to defend my position of wanting to survive against the tragedy that's happening with people dying. Because I just don't know. It should have been a national mandate that the states could have pulled from, but now every state is doing it haphazardly on their own, and it just frustrates me. And I'm sorry if I'm rambling, but
no, tell it like it is. I mean, these are the issues of the people. I want to hear. Go ahead.
People in Michigan are driving to Ohio to go to restaurants to eat because they want the dining experience, and those numbers are no higher or no lower. So now we're taking money out of Michigan and putting it in Ohio, while restaurants here are struggling, and restaurateurs are already struggling. I mean, the national average is a chain restaurant makes 12 cents off the dollar. An independent restaurant only makes 9 cents in profit off of $1. So we're already struggling.
Wow.
And then to say, hey, we're in the people business. I may sell food, and I have a great crepe, La Crepe Royal Oak, but we're in the people business. So if you tell the people don't come to my restaurant, then you've pretty much strangled my business.
Let me ask you this. I mean, right now, what would you do? There was PPE loans and all these loans that came from the state to help small business owners. You talked about, when we talked, the fact that there were some people who were in competition for some of those grants.
Oh, absolutely.
Talk about that.
The state of Michigan came out with 2 grants, and they touted that they had $15 million to give to small businesses, restaurants, and bars. But when you do the math, that's only 650 people, businesses out the entire state of Michigan. So what they did is it opened at 9 a.m. I got in the queue, and the queue is you have to wait in order to fill out the application before they can consider you for the loan, perhaps, maybe. But now, if you're only giving out 650 people this money, and I was number 7,000 at 905. It was like 15, 20,000 people on hold to get this money, then you're not helping out the industry. And the example I gave you, and I do it in my rants, is if you want farmers to stop growing, you pay them. You don't tell them, hey, go to this website and see if we can get you some money, perhaps, maybe. No, you give them the money. And I work in a restaurant, and I see what happens, and the governor is not wrong. When we start drinking or celebrating, our inhibitions are lowered, and those masks will come off, and maybe decisions made are not the most pragmatic ones.
And
so
a couple people be drinking and be
get
sipping and trying to mac and all that other stuff.
And that's cool.
Right.
But if you don't want us to open, then pay us not to open. Don't have us in competition for loans, little grants. Because if your business, literally, I've been shut down since March 16th of 2020.
Wow. I mean, but how? So here's what's interesting here. How are you supposed to feed your family, take care of your family, or survive when literally, in some cases, these businesses are the only businesses that, I mean, what else do some of these folks have except for that?
And to make that complaint makes it sound like that I don't care about lives, when my complaint is all lives matter.
Yeah, all restaurants matter. Folks, I want to take a quick break. 313-355-6018. This is the Brice is Right. We're talking to sole proprietor Dennis Williams, owner of Le Crepe. There is a war against restaurants in this state, and it needs to come to a cease. So Dennis, let me ask you this. Right now, let's say if 6 months go by and there's no plan to end this great COVID-19 or whatever we want to call it, what's the next step for you?
Like filling out an application at the post office, I guess.
Wow.
I don't know. I mean, I shouldn't be villainized because I'm addicted to eating and allergic to starving.
Mm-hmm.
And the next step will be, if it's hard to plan because I don't know what's going to happen in the next months to come. So it's hard to forecast. It's hard to create events to get people to come back because you just don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And so, Valentine's Day comes up. So I guess, if people travel during Valentine's Day, then that means there's going to be a spike in the numbers. And if the spike is in the numbers, then we got to shut back down.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I'm happy that people come to see me for takeout and delivery. I'm grateful for every person I get. Mm-hmm. But my vendors, my rent, my employees are not built for a takeout, carry-out model.
Is there let me ask you this. So when we talk about, first, I said I am a huge fan and supporter of businesses, specifically minority businesses. Right now in COVID, how are minority businesses holding on when in some cases they don't get the same capital or benefits that, their other counterparts do? As a minority business owner in this new era of Joe Biden, where do you think the Democrats are going to take the issue around just keeping businesses afloat?
I think it depends on the personal philosophy of the decision makers. Mm-hmm. And it shouldn't be that way. I mean, science should be the rule of what's going on. Mm-hmm. And I believe it depends on the belief system of the decision maker. Because if he or she believe that, hey, it's airborne, sure up your immune system, wear a mask, 6 feet, and then personal responsibility will be okay. But if you believe that, hey, everyone needs to stay in the house and we just need to lick it because it's just going to go away cold turkey, then we have what we have.
So let me ask you this. So right now, we're in a situation where we've got a mask mandate. The president says he wants to make masks the full mandate. I mean, how does the mask affect your businesses? I mean, right now, some people are saying, oh, we're going to put up the igloos all around town, but some people can't afford them. And then you got the heating bill. I mean, what are you guys doing, or some of your friends in business doing to counter this new phenomenon that, it's almost like I've got to go the full Monty before I even, if I want to just go out and have a nice dinner with my family. I'm serious about this. That's what we're at.
We'll talk about Royal Oak. Royal Oak did give us street permits to have our sidewalks. Mm-hmm. Then we put up tents because it got cold and windy. Then we found out that it's a tent permit you got to file for. So then it's cold in Michigan. Who would have thunk it? So then we get warmers to keep people warm. But you can't have propane tanks inside of a tent. Mm-hmm. So then...
Because then that would mean folks would blow up.
So...
That'd be another health risk. And then...
So then we as business owners start talking, saying, hey... So I can have an enclosed heated tent with people in it, but I can't have my heated building that I'm also paying rent and utilities for and have the people in there. Mm-hmm. And so what then happened was the tents had to be uncovered. Mm-hmm. So they couldn't be enclosed anymore. So now you have February, this is January 20, whatever, and it's 10 degrees outside, but tents have to be uncovered. Mm-hmm. So now you're serving your food in a cold tent with a propane tank with people with hats and gloves on. So We're trying to pivot. We're trying to do everything. And as restaurateurs, we have done everything that the governor have asked us. You wanted us to get masks. We got the masks. We got the thermometers. We wash, rinse, sanitize everything. We went to paper disposable menus. That's an expense that restaurants incurred. You wanted us then to start getting everyone's name and address. We did that. We as restaurateurs have done everything you've asked us to do, and yet we're still closed. We're still villainized. We're still not allowed to make money. And I mean, under Michigan rule, you have to claim martial law really before you can shut down a business. That's the way they've done. But
wait. Say that again, because some folks would say, "Oh, it's not that big of a deal because we're saving lives." So apparently, you're saying you have to literally, when you shut down a business, it's unconstitutional.
Yes.
Thank you. So it's amazing how many people don't know that.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about literally, Michigan is a small business, pro-labor town in some cases, but you're talking about literally ending or shutting down the economy that's been moving our state for probably the last 50 years. Small business, restaurants. I mean, people patronize these places.
And we get it. We're not monsters. I personally hate that the people making decisions for small businesses get a salary every 2 weeks. Every other Thursday, their direct deposit hits. So it's easy to say, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Hey, I got my food and shelter, so let's talk about the health of everyone else.
Here's what I believe, Dennis, because I think you are a proud American because you're giving back. You're creating jobs. You're creating an opportunity for people to have a livelihood. I think that if you've got to suffer, Lansing should suffer. Washington should suffer. Because the reality is, I agree, they're making decisions, but at the end of the day, they've got a guaranteed check. You don't. And these are the type of things that just make me angry. I want to segue to just a little bit different topic. So when you started Le Crepe, tell me a little bit about the business. I've been there a little bit. I've eaten it. It's great, folks. If you ever want a real Le Crepe, go to Le Crepe in Royal Oak. But how did you come up with that? I mean, first of all, you're a black man in Royal Oak with a French restaurant, essentially. Yes. How did you come up with that idea, and what started it?
I'm not the father of the idea. A friend took me to when it was What Crepe, and it was just in Birmingham. I mean, it was just in Royal Oak. And I had the food and fell in love with it. So the menu was already designed. The concept was already there. And they were doing quite well to the fact that What Crepe opened to 3 restaurants, downtown Birmingham and downtown Ann Arbor. So you got black men in these exclusive areas with a French restaurant, as you just said, and it was going great. I left corporate America and came on as a manager. And at one point, I was managing all 3. When the restaurants closed down, I then reopened as a sole proprietor in downtown Royal Oak. And so we've been there. April will be 5 years. That's me knocking on some wood, folks. So it'll be there 5 years. And I mean, it's already a hard business.
So let me ask you this. What do you think that business owners, I mean, we even saw the issue where you had business owners that were barbershops. I mean, these are business owners at the end of the day, nail salons, cosmetology centers that got angry because when the governor's orders came down, at the end of the day, her hair was pressed. But, folks like my mom. And
I love you for that, bro.
People, I mean, yes. I'm going to go right into it. Because here's my thing. Let's be straight up. It's not about do as I say, not as I do. If you have an order, I would have had so much respect if she would have came and did a press conference with a head wrap and say, listen, if you can't get your hair done, I can't get mine done.
Man, Brother Brice, you when I would see the press conference, I'm like, her nails are looking good. She has no new growth. I mean, I recognize that since there's no national mandate, we got to try to figure it out as we go along. And I understand omelets and eggs and all that, and we're trying to throw stuff to the wall and see if it sticks. But there are some casualties in this that are not just the casualties of the unfortunate lives lost. It's businesses that are dying slowly. And if you want us to be closed, then pay us to be closed. Look at my tax return from last year. See how much I made. Give me that. I'll keep the restaurant closed. I won't complain. And we'll get through this together. But we're not getting through this together. It's almost every man for themselves. So I have employees who are no longer getting unemployment because that's been cut off. The $600 has been cut off. So you got people during Christmas. The lines at food banks are around the corner, and I don't want your grants or your PPP loans because now these are loans that I have to pay back.
So wait a minute. So let me get this straight. So I mean, this is interesting because you're saying the $600. I mean, I almost don't think that government understands what it truly takes to run a successful business. I mean, you're talking about the fact that you have to pay employees. You have to make sure that you have all your insurance. I mean, what actually goes into running a business for folks who may not actually have a business? What goes into the cost of running an actual successful business and not just even a mom and pop?
All right. I mean, you got your four walls you got to pay for, so that's rent. You have your utilities. You have employees. You want to pay them a fair wage that they're somewhat loyal to you and that they'll treat your customer base with respect. So then you have your internal customers is what we call. Then you have your customer base that comes in. I have to give them a fair meal at a fair price with great service. Then from that, you pay sales tax on everything. So now I'm a tax collector for the government. So that 6% has to be paid out. If you have employees, you got workers' comp insurance. You have injury insurance. So you have all these taxes that you pay. And then at the end of the day, I'm a food place, so I got to pay for food. And you want to do it profitably, that maybe I could somehow get some chicken with my beans and rice at the end of the day.
That actually sounds pretty good right about now.
So
yeah.
So there's a lot that goes into it. It's a lot of spinning plates. And that's what we do on a daily basis. And it's already hard. So then you put in a pandemic, and then it gets harder.
So right now, we got another guest joining us, but I got you for about 8 more minutes. I want to go into just overall because the businesses, it almost seems like we're talking about COVID-19. We're talking about politics and Trump and Joe Biden, Democrat majority, all this foo-foo, but we failed to talk about the most important thing, and that's the businesses. I mean, right now, this is a situation where, the things that you're telling me, most folks probably don't even know because it's assumed the businesses are being taken care of. So what happens, Dennis, if we don't get out of COVID for the next 6 months? What do you do outside of finding another job? I mean, what happens to the rest of the restaurants on your block?
I mean, they close down. Wow. And for those who are maintaining, they're maintaining with such emergency generators on that you just right now you just ride it out. We're in survival mode. We're riding it out. And I mean, historically, when Dwight D. Eisenhower got tired of going down Main Street and said he wanted to do the interstate highway. So the interstate highways, they're great. They're convenient. They get you from A to B. But when they built those highways, it killed off main streets.
Yeah. I mean,
and it killed businesses. So the greater
good. The highways, but here's the deal, though. That's a public good, which I get it. But it gets a little deeper. Because those public goods, what is the private cost? And the cost is you possibly, as a business owner, as a husband, as a restaurant, as a father, you might be in a situation where the American dream that was promised to you could be gone.
It's no longer there.
Could be gone. So, folks, we're going to take a quick break. This is the Brice is Right. We are talking with Dennis Williams, owner and operator of Le Crepe in Royal Oak. Folks, I want to take a couple seconds. If you want to call in, give me a call, 313-355-6018. Folks, now we're going to get into the real conversation. Folks, we're talking about the rumble in the jungle. They want to take your speech away. I didn't say it. The Democrats said it. Social media said it. Twitter and Facebook said it. I want to hear from you. We're going to roll with the song. We'll come back in 1 minute. Holla.
Brice is right, baby.
That's pretty cool.
Am I getting on this one?
Yeah, put it on that one.
Oh, man, I apologize.
No, we good. Let's go right into it.
Crazy.
Let's start a little early. Jump in on the conversation if you want to.
All right.
All right, folks, we are back. I know that was pretty much longer than expected, but folks, I want to bring in my other guest, Bobby Hesley. Bobby Hesley is a writer, contributor with the American Thinker, and we're going to talk about that thing that shuts you down, or should I say shuts you up. It's called censorship. Folks, they censored the President of the United States. Now, whether you like the President or not, that's your prerogative. But the reality is, if it happened to him, it could happen to you. 313-355-6018. The Brice is right. Bobby, welcome to the show, man.
Good to see you, my friend.
Man, Bobby, it burns me up when we talk about censorship, the fact that social media is now purging. If they don't like what you say, it's got to come off. This is totally against the Constitution, freedom of speech, freedom of expression. Talk to me, man. How do we save America's voice?
The way we save America's voice is to not allow them to shut up our voice, to just keep talking, to just keep saying whatever it is that we say. And I know for a fact that, I believe the Democrats overplayed their hand with everything they did with this election. I believe they stole it. I will never not believe that. I was at the TCF Center. I know what I saw. And the other fact is social media, the technocrats, who are pretty much one and the same with the Democrats and who I call the Republicrats, all these Republicans that sold us out. They're all on the same team. And I believe that right now, somewhere out there, I don't know who or what it is, but I know that there is a platform out there that is going to blow Twitter, social media, Facebook, all these other platforms away that are going to allow these 75 to 90 million disenfranchised Americans that they are trying to censor. This is the USA. This is not the USSA. This is not the United Socialist States of America like the old USSR Russia that used to censor people. It may last for a few weeks, for a few months, maybe even a year or two, but sooner or later, I believe that good old-fashioned Americanism is going to kick in, and we're going to have our speech back. And look at their stock. Twitter stock has already tumbled. Facebook stock's already going down.
$5 billion to be exact.
Yep.
Let me ask you this. I'm going to ask the businessman real quick. When you hear Twitter saying that they lost $5 billion, but also acknowledging that they think this could be the slippery slope, which is a dangerous slope. Twitter CEO said this. Your thoughts on this when it comes to freedom of speech? I mean, should controversial speech, hate speech, whatever you want to call it, should it still be protected? Your thoughts?
I think that, the Constitution states that you have freedom of speech, that you can criticize whomever you want to without fear of reprisal from the government. And so you can say whatever you say and don't have to worry about being jailed. But when we're talking about Twitter,
wait a minute. That's not true. Because I was actually put in Facebook jail because I said something that challenged the status quo. That's what smart people do. But apparently, I got put in Facebook jail. And Mark Zuckerberg, if you're listening, you did it so savvy because I didn't know I was in Facebook jail. I had a show, and I literally said, okay, let me get on Facebook and do what I need to do. And I got on, and it said, shut down, lockdown, you're out. You violated Facebook standards. We'll holler at you when we holler at you.
Well, Facebook is not the government also, and Facebook has sponsors that that is responsible to. So you got shut down because someone that they're getting money from don't agree with what you're saying, and I don't want you to take money out my pocket. So the slippery slope is what you call it. Has nothing to do with freedom of speech. It has to do with don't take money from my pocket.
Let me ask you this, Bobby. This is interesting because now, do you foresee that we could look up and one day there be a U.S. Secretary of Technology? Do you see that coming?
Wow. I wouldn't be surprised. Because a lot of these departments already, I think the Department of Education should be abolished. There's all these unnecessary departments. I mean, Bush created, hey, we got attacked on that. You know what? I'm going to create the Department of Homeland Security. As if all the other departments weren't enough. So I could see that. I could see a czar. I mean, Obama used to have czars. He literally called them czars. You know, Reagan had a drug czar. These are unelected bureaucrats. So I would not at all be surprised at that. We've already had things like that.
Let me ask you guys this. You know, and folks, I want to hear from you. 313-355-6018. The Brice is right. I want to go into this topic of Joe Biden's next 100 days. Bobby, I'm going to start with you because this is interesting. I mean, this entire thing, this entire situation of now, you know, we've got the inauguration is over. All the hype is over. In an article today, and I'll go to it, on the Wall Street Journal, if you have a publication, please try it. I recommend. The Wall Street Journal, it said that Joe Biden's party could be his downfall in terms of the progressives are starting to show their face. Let me ask you this. Is Joe Biden's problem going to be his own party or the Republicans that are left over that are still in the Senate and in the House? Your thoughts?
I predicted early last year that Joe Biden is going to be a Manchurian candidate. I don't know if he'll make it through a first term. I think he's going to step down. They're going to invoke the 25th Amendment, whatever. And it's funny how you're talking about how the inauguration's over, the hype is over. You know what else is over, Brandon? COVID-19 is over. Because miraculously, thousands of people a day are not dying of COVID-19. The restaurant shutdowns are over. Gretchen Whitman, because she's a wretched woman, finally decided to open up all the restaurants after Joe Biden got in.
I know. Big boy, listen,
They're not open.
We're
Well,
healed all
on
of a
February
sudden.
1st, they will be.
That's not open.
We're healed.
25% to operate.
Exactly. Good point.
So he is a business owner. And let me ask you this. So this is interesting because now we're talking about the fact that, you know, I predicted this. And I said that if the Democrats, first of all, they control the House, they control the Senate, they control the White House, and the courts are starting to lean, at least hear them out. So they got everything. So now the issue is, I predict if they move to further impeaching the Senate, it could retaliate at the state level because we got a governor's race. And right now, Big Gretch, depending on who you are, isn't necessarily the most popular governor. Do you foresee, let me ask you this, as a business owner, because you talk to these folks, you galvanize with these folks, do you foresee that if businesses are not opened up by the spring, we could have a one-term governor in Michigan? Your thoughts?
Well, absolutely, because she's the face of the shutdown. She's the face of the shutdown. So, I mean, you in for a penny, you in for a pound. And so businesses are seeing that, hey, there's no real plan here. And we need a plan, whether it's right or wrong, how you believe. But it's just like, in my opinion, you're just throwing darts at a solution and see what happens. And there's omelets and eggs, and I get that. But from a personal standpoint, small businesses are losing.
It's a war. And listen, I've said this since day one. I said businesses need a plan, and it looks bad. We were talking about before you came here, Bobby, that, you know, if you're going to say, if I'm the governor, if this is Governor Brice, okay, vote for me. All right. And I tell the state of Michigan that you cannot get your hair done because there's a lockdown, then my hair better be jacked up. Because if I show there with a fresh cut, folks are going to look at me like, wait a minute. You said we couldn't get a haircut.
And those are the micro notices that we show. And so you're not walking the walk and talking the talk. And so I can see that, I mean, when we talk, Trump has made his mark with the 98 appellate judges that he's put throughout the country. So his legacy is cemented, and whether you believe a Republican or Democrat slant, these judges are in positions that are decision makers, and especially for African Americans, I believe it affects us on a local level.
Let me ask you this. You're a businessman. Trump was a businessman. When Trump came out with the Platinum Plan, the $500 billion to reinvest in minority areas, why do you think more black folks didn't get in support behind that? Do you think it was too late, or what was your thoughts on that?
Well, because of bureaucracy, as a business person, I don't believe the plan, because by the time it hits my wallet, hits my bank account, it's probably 6-7 months down the line. And so when you're talking about a plan, and that plan is a microcosm of whomever thought about it, it may not affect all black people because believe it or not, black folks are on a spectrum. We don't all like the same stuff. We don't all believe in the same stuff. And based on life experiences and classism and morality, it could be a myriad of things that the platinum plan will not touch. And this platinum plan, just because it came from a rapper or someone, we're just supposed to get behind it, which insults me, because just because you put someone up with some flashy jewelry on, oh yeah, that's it, we ready now. No.
Who came up with the platinum? I mean, they didn't call it the ICE plan, the better credit plan. I just when I heard the name, I said, yeah, that was interesting.
It's sexy to black people. We love platinum.
Bobby, let me ask you this. I mean, so right now, we've got this situation with big tech, and companies are coming down, and they're saying, I mean, even Cal Ripken, Kurt Schilling, former Major League Baseball, for you young folks, Major League Baseball player, he said that his insurance policy was canceled because he simply said he supported the president, the former president now, 45. I mean, the hatred is real. I mean, your thoughts on this? I mean, first of all, the fact that your insurance policy can be canceled because of your political beliefs, that is not what we do in the United States.
That's why I don't think it's going to last, Brice, Brandon, because the thing is, in America, we're going to see, I believe that this tyranny that is upon us, because what I saw was not an inauguration, it was an occupation. That was a military Hunger Games occupation. And when I say Hunger Games, I'm not using hyperbole, because Lady Gaga literally showed up dressed like a Hunger Games character. I don't know if you guys saw that, but
well, hold on. First of all, let me talk about the inauguration. so we got a couple minutes. I'm gonna call for you folks. Let's talk about the inauguration. Let's talk about the inauguration. Okay. I'm not big on entertainment, but out of all the people they could have got to sing, why J-Lo? I mean, let's be honest. I mean, J-Lo, she's fine. Don't get me wrong. Good looking. But the reality is they could have went with Fantasia. They could have went with anybody from Detroit, one of the Clark sisters. But to me, I'm going to tell you what it was. It wasn't an inauguration. It was a Hollywood spectacle. And if you are not part of Hollywood, or you're not part of the elite, you had no business being there.
It was a business as usual bash.
Exactly.
And the fact is, J-Lo, like you said, why couldn't they have Fantasia?
Jenny from the block.
Well, which means, and again, this is the real talk, right? Real talk. This was Biden's way of saying, hey, 11 million illegals, we're going to have J-Lo up just to show you that we're going to citizen, because we need a new black vote.
But they could have got Mark Anthony. They could have got Elian Gonzalez. I mean, they could have got something. They could have got A-Rod for that. I think
it's classic Joe Biden pandering. He's pandering to the illegals. He's sending them a message that he's about to make them. They're undocumented Democrats. He's going to make them legal so they can all vote Democrat. Because I believe that between abortion and between all the disenfranchisement that's been put on the black community by the Democrat Party, they're going to lose the black vote, either through just killing too many of us through all their abortion legislation, or just pushing us away. And so they need to replace that.
Let me ask you something, Dennis. When you hear the fact that right now, the former president, at a speech in Baltimore, basically says, "What do you have to lose?" Let me ask you this, from a businessman standpoint, why are so many African Americans still voting Democrat when they have seen that, whether you talk about Detroit, Chicago, Los Angeles, New Orleans, all these cities have had challenges over the years, and they still vote in the same people, whereas Detroit's last, folks, I'm going to see if you can get this, Detroit's last Republican was 1960. That was the last time they had a Republican here.
Mariani, yeah.
And so what's interesting is I'm sitting here saying, why, and I really want to know this. And folks, I want to hear from you, 313-355-6018. What is the blind allegiance to the Dems? What are they offering? What are they providing? Dennis, you go ahead.
Well, you vote Democrat because your minister told you to.
But he ain't voting Democrat. That's the irony.
Your mama, your grandma, your minister, your teachers.
Here's what's interesting. Here's what's interesting for you church folks. What's interesting is I have literally, son of a minister, I have literally watched pastors say one thing, and then the night later go to a Republican rally and say another. And I'm thinking, wait a minute.
Well,
What's going on? Wait a minute. This dog don't hunt.
This dog.
There's something wrong with this.
Let me interrupt you. First, a person is not 100% liberal on anything or 100% conservative on everything. And when we figure out that, hey, it depends on the topic and how it affects me as a person, business-wise, or as an individual, then you're able to make your decisions, hopefully with education based on that. But it's easy to govern with fear on both sides of the aisle, and so to tell black folks, hey, you shouldn't be Republican,
right?
Because that means you're a sellout. You don't care about black people. You don't care about the government protecting you. Well, it depends on the subject. You mentioned abortion. That abortion fear has been around. Well, Roe versus Wade has been around since the 70s.
Today is the
But here's the bigger issue. The bigger issue is, when we talk about, I mean, let's give them some credit. Let's give Democrats. I'm gonna give you some credit today. All right. The credit is there are actual blue dog conservative Democrats that make common sense policies. My concern is for the folks out there, the cuckoos, who in some cases don't want you to have a speech if they don't agree with you. I'm sorry, folks. There's a little piece of paper written in 1776, or whenever it was written, that says, I can run my mouth. And the beauty of that is, you can too. It's called the Constitution.
Could I be honest, though?
But you can run your mouth without reprisal from the government. But you can't expect to come in my house and say, Dan, your house is dirty, and I not kick you out.
But I can say it from the streets.
You can say
and here's the issue. I have a feeling, folks, today is the 22nd of January, 2021. Remember I said this. I have a feeling that there will come a time where the Constitution could be no more. I believe that. As crazy as it sounds, because it's stopping, the Constitution stops an agenda. Bobby, you're up.
Well, here's what I believe about that, Brandon. I think that, two things. One, I'm actually surprised that it took this long for censorship to happen. I'm actually surprised that what's happening now didn't happen like 30 or 40 years ago. Because when you kill 60 million of your citizens since 1973, right? Today's the 48-year anniversary of Roe versus Wade. The generation of Roe would have been 48 years old today. Can you believe that? They would have had kids. They would have had grandkids.
Yeah.
So we've kicked God out of the public square. We've redefined marriage. We export a $10 billion a year pornography industry overseas. All these things that we do, this is what happens when you abandon the Judeo-Christian principles on what you built. You get stolen elections. You get censorship. You get communism. And that's what's trying to happen in America. Now, I'm saying it's trying to happen because one advantage that America has that other countries that have been taken over by communists don't have is that we have the 50-state federalism. In other words, we're going to see, I believe, pushback against this tyranny at the state levels, and I think that is going to stop a lot of it in its tracks.
Let me ask you this: what for my listening folks who they want peace and unity and all this other stuff? What is communism, so people can actually know what it is and what it's cloaked as?
Yes. So. Here's what communism is. Communism is a godless ideology that seeks to put man in the place of God. So when you look at the three primary attributes of God, that he is all-knowing, all-powerful, and all-present, man seeks to displace those, to take those attributes from God and attribute them to himself. So man wants to be all-seeing. In other words, the government wants to have access to everything. They want to know everything about you. They want to be everywhere. They want to be ever-present. They want to be in every aspect of our lives, right? And what it does, though, is you can't just throw that on people. You have to lead people up to it. So normally you have to cloak it behind tugging at the heartstrings of the masses. Everybody wants equality, right? Everybody wants justice. So what communism does is it creates this us versus them, the rich versus the poor, the gay versus the straight, the cops versus the civilians, the immigrants versus the natives, the black versus the whites, right? And all these different men versus women with feminism. You got all these different isms that hide behind this equality. They're basically communist equality movements. So what happens is the answer to all of those inequalities is socialism, which leads to communism. Now, socialism is basically when the government takes over everything, and we've been living through it for the last year.
Let me ask you this.
Well, we've been living through it since World War II.
What I mean is,
hold on. Let me ask you this, because this is important, especially for folks like you with a business. What do you believe socialism does to your business? Where imagine if literally today the government just said, we don't like your business, we're shutting it down. I mean, this could happen.
It has.
Exactly.
It has happened.
Exactly. So
we're in it now.
I mean, how are we supposed to deal with a system that, in my opinion, it's un-American? This is not what we do in these United States, folks. Let me ask you this, Dennis. I mean, right now.
But it has happened. It has happened. It has happened to African Americans since the Great Migration. So, as to quote Kwame, you know.
Wait. I gotta pull a plug out. Textual Sexual was released. He was let out. My guy, the former mayor. Unfortunate what happened, but he's home, folks. Detroit. We are happy that our guy, regardless if you support the mayor or not, he's home. The 28 years was too much. Good to see you back, Mayor Kilpatrick. Back to you. Go ahead.
But so when the United States gets a cold, black folks already has a fever. So what they're doing now, to your point of censorship and taking away businesses and telling us where we can and can't go, has been happening to African Americans since the migration. And it was still considered America then. The Democrats that we herald now were the Republicans back in the day until Lyndon Johnson converted.
You talking about the switch?
Yeah, that happened in, 69?
Well, they say there was a switch, but
I'll tell you where I stand on that. I don't necessarily believe in this switch. I think what happened, and I'll be the first to say, to me, the president. There's a couple things. I had a lot of hopes for 45. I'll put it out there. But there were a couple things that I think we dropped the ball. The immigration piece was one. I think, the fact that the first lady was an immigrant, to me, that was the biggest selling point. And Republicans, they dropped the ball when it came to immigration reform. But here's the other thing. This is an opportunity where I think Democrats with common sense and the new generation of Republican leadership, I think it's going to change. And I actually think that 2024, you're going to see some very interesting rising stars out there. But the question is, with Joe Biden, some people have said that the president now, he's got some challenges. He's 77 years old. I mean, there are some people that don't believe that, well, let me say it this way. There are some people that actually believe Kamala Harris will be the first female president. Do you think?
I think she will. I think they've already got one foot in the grave when it comes to him when they talk about her. And I understand what radio show I'm on. But if she couldn't get the nomination, I think it's very savvy of her to come in, I guess, through the proverbial back door.
But what does that mean? Let's talk about that for a minute, because people had all the pearls, and let me just state this out there. So for all you Kamala Harris folks, okay, she's a Howard grad. I'm a Howardite, so woo woo Bison too. Okay, I get it. But this is deeper than just college affiliations. You said that you think that she could come in through the back door, but if a large percentage of the country didn't vote for her, what does that say?
That says the system that we have. I mean, 70 million people voted for both of these candidates, which means that 50% of us either got it right or got it wrong. But I'm also a proponent that on a national level doesn't affect me.
I'll tell you what it says, Brandon. I think Kamala Harris thinks that black people are stupid, and we're not. I think she's a panderer. She ran as an Asian. She refuses to acknowledge her black heritage until it suits her. She said that Tupac is the greatest rapper still alive.
Well,
but
wait a minute. Now, brother, man, he is from Oakland.
True.
So maybe there's an Oakland connection, but I get it.
But here's the thing, and here's the thing, okay? You had all these black women coming out, and we love our black sisters, okay? But my critique of them...
They didn't come out before the primary,
here's what I was saying, though. Here's what I was saying. you have all these people celebrating this black woman. They're proud of her blackness than she is, because according to Kamala, she's not black. Like, she doesn't acknowledge her blackness. But secondly, you had all these black women coming out, and we're coming up on another year anniversary of Kobe dying. You had all these black women coming out against Kobe, dancing on his grave, and desecrating his death because he married a non-black woman. But where's all that criticism with Kamala Harris marrying a white man?
Well, so I'm glad you brought that up, because in the next 10 minutes, folks, we're going to talk about the things that the media is scared to talk about. We're going to talk about who is the real Douglas Imhoff. We don't know who he is, but this man is probably the most powerful man in the White House because he's married to the vice president, and we don't know who he is. Folks, we knew who Todd Palin was. We knew what he liked to cook, where he shopped, all that, underwear style, all that stuff. It was public because the media cared. But does the media care about Douglas Imhoff? Your thoughts on that? I mean, who is this guy? Is a media attorney, very powerful out of Silicon Valley, which is what she likes. You know, powerful men if you can't do nothing for her. Didn't TLC make a song about that?
She don't want
Scrubs, no scrubs, exactly, no scrubs. Sorry, you ain't getting no scrubs with that. But let me ask you this: should America be questioning who is Douglas Imhoff? Your thoughts?
They should, but again, because of her skin color. See, a lot of these black politicians, they're like Captain America. They use the color of their they use their skin as both a shield and as a weapon, right? So because she's black, we can't question anything about her, including who her husband is. Because all of a sudden, I guarantee if we start to question who this Douglas Imhoff man is, we're going to hear a lot of people start playing that race card. The race card that Kamala herself refused to play because, again, she said she has no plan for black America. She panders to blacks when it suits her, and I don't think anybody's going to care to ask that, but it is important who he is because he is going to be the first gentleman.
Let me ask you this before we close out for the night. Dennis, first of all, and I hope that we get this restaurant situation up to snap. I want to focus on really quick. Next year, we've got a governor's race coming up. Where do you see happening if things make a turn for a worse? I mean, who do you think could be the next governor? Do you think it's going to go back to Republicans, or do you think Big Gretch will be able to hold it out because there are people that believe that she cares and she's going to stick by us and get us through this COVID-19 or not?
To answer, I have to ask questions. I'm from Chicago originally. From what I understand, has Michigan ever had a Democrat governor and a Democrat president at the same time?
I am not sure.
Wasn't there a brief time when we had Granholm and a little bit of Clinton?
No, Bill Clinton and
Granholm.
And Granholm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. But very briefly, though, because I think Granholm was elected like 2001, and Clinton was, Clinton obviously left in early 2001 after Bush.
Here's what I think. Go ahead.
I know where you're getting at, and you're asking me, I think I did vote for Gretchen, too. So you're asking me, has my political opinion changed because of what's happening?
Absolutely.
And I guess it depends on what day you ask me. I recognize
the day that the rent's due.
The day the rent's due, I'm mad as hell. No, hell no. Hell no. But when the rent's due, I am mad.
Okay.
I'm mad at the mishandling of the COVID situation. I'm mad.
Was it mishandling or politicization of it, though?
Well, there was no plan, and we're not a democracy. We're a republic.
Right.
And the republic says I send the smart people to Lansing.
Thank you. Hold on, folks. Did you hear that? We are a republic. We are not a democracy. We're a democratic republic. That means
we send the smart people into offices because we believe that they're going to make the right decisions for us. But throughout the years of nepotism, cronyism, backdoor deals, I don't think we necessarily have these smart people in positions that are making the decisions that we need. Because if we did, then 30% of businesses wouldn't be closed because of this flu.
The flu, the pandemic, the Great Reset, whatever you want to call it. Folks, I want to thank my guest tonight, Dennis Williams, owner and proprietor of Le Crepe Restaurant in Royal Oak, Michigan. If you get hungry, patronize it. It's darn good. I won't say damn. I'll say darn. Oh, I said damn. It's really good, and this guy, he wants your business. Let's stand up for our businesses, folks. And then I also want to thank my other guest, Bobby Hesley, soon to be the Bobby Hesley Show. I'm predicting I'm putting you out there. who also is a writer and contributor for the American Thinker. Folks, that's the show today. As I said before, this is The Secret is Out, the Brice is Right podcast tonight. We are talking about real news, real people, straight to the point. I'm your host, the People's Champ, the defender of truth, Brandon Brice, coming at you. Cameron, take us out.